Hi, I'm Sophia, and I want to share a story that completely changed my life. For years, I put up with my husband's insults, each one worse than the last. But it was the ninth time he humiliated me that pushed me to leave. I thought I was done, but what I didn't expect was how his world would fall apart while mine started to soar. How do you rebuild when everything you thought was yours is gone? You'll find out as I share my journey, from heartbreak to empowerment, and the shocking twist that no one saw coming. Introduction to the betrayal. The late afternoon sun poured in through the windows, casting long shadows over the living room. I had spent most of the morning sorting through the pile of bills on the kitchen counter, my mind numb from the weight of everything. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I glanced at my phone. A missed call from Marco. A text from him too, just a few words. I'll be home late. I couldn't tell you why, but I had this sinking feeling that today was different. It was in the sound of his voice when he came home, clipped, hollow. The air between us had always been tense, but tonight it was suffocating. My heart raced as I made my way to the living room where Marco was standing by the window, laughing on the phone with someone. I stood in the doorway, barely breathing, when I heard it, the words that broke me. You really thought she'd ever leave me? What an idiot! Sophia's just a fool, really! Isabel's laugh followed. I could hear her, even though I couldn't see her. I didn't know if it was the tears or the anger flooding my chest first, but I knew I couldn't stand there anymore. My hand clenched into a fist as I stepped back, heart hammering in my throat. The weight of his words pressed down on me, suffocating the air in the room. Conflict momentum, CM, high. The emotional intensity peaks as Sophia faces yet another betrayal, leading her to confront Marco with her decision. Emotional impact, EM. Anger, hurt, and a deep sense of betrayal fills Sophia. This marks the point where she cannot endure any further humiliation. She is on the edge of making a life-altering decision. Sophia's internal struggle. I didn't know how long I stood there, but when Marco hung up the phone, I saw him glance over at me, a look in his eyes that almost seemed to say, nothing. No remorse, no guilt. Just a man who had been caught but wasn't ashamed. I could feel the walls closing in. 16 years ago, we had been so happy. The laughter, the promises. We were that couple everyone envied, so in love. Marco used to hold me close, tell me everything was going to be okay. But everything had changed. The insults, the lies, the secret looks he exchanged with Isabel. It was clear to me now. He was never going to change. He didn't love me, not really. I was just an anchor, and he had long since outgrown me. Still, I felt the pull. I loved him. I loved him deeply. We had a life together, children, our children. The thought of walking away from them was unbearable. But the thought of continuing down this path, of living with this shadow of a man, was even worse. My fingers traced the delicate chain around my neck, the same one he'd given me years ago on our anniversary. It seemed so pointless now. Sophia's decision. It wasn't the first time Marco had hurt me. Hell, it wasn't even the second. But this was the 9th time. I had promised myself that the next time I would leave. He'd humiliated me over and over, pushing me to my limits. But this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. The thought of packing my things, of standing up to him and telling him that I wouldn't be his punching bag anymore, sent a rush of adrenaline through me. For the first time in a long time, I felt the strength rising in me, a surge of courage that I had been holding back for so long. As Marco stood there, pretending like nothing had happened, I realized that I didn't need him anymore. I had been afraid for so long, but I wasn't afraid anymore. My self-worth had to mean something. It had to. I turned to him, my voice low but firm. I can't do this anymore, Marco. I'm leaving. He stared at me for a moment, his face twisting in confusion. Then it melted into something else, something I didn't recognize. It was fear. He was afraid. Cliffhanger. Ending for Chapter 1. Marco's face turned red, his hands clenched. You can't leave me. You know that, right? He took a step forward, but I didn't move. Sophia, we're a family. But I could already hear the words in my head, the ones I'd been rehearsing for weeks. Not anymore. I stood up, walking slowly towards the door. His voice cracked as he called after me. Sophia, please don't do this. Don't leave me. But I was done. I reached for the doorknob, hesitating for only a split second. This was it. This was the moment. I wasn't looking back. Conflict momentum, CM, high, suspenseful ending that leaves the audience eagerly anticipating the next step. Emotional impact, EEM, courage, uncertainty. I thought I had prepared myself for the worst. I had lived through enough heartbreak and betrayal in the past 9 years to think that nothing could truly surprise me anymore. But as I walked through the doors of Marco's office, I felt my stomach twist into a knot. Something was wrong, and I couldn't pinpoint it at first. It was as if the entire room was heavy with a secret, a truth that was impossible to escape. I had come here to pick up some documents, nothing more. But when I entered the lobby, something caught my eye. An old photo frame, discarded carelessly on the floor. It was our wedding photo, the one we had taken on that perfect spring day. A moment frozen in time that was supposed to mean something, but it didn't. Not anymore. I bent down, my fingers shaking as I touched the glass. The photo was cracked, the frame chipped as if it were something worthless. My heart dropped. How could he do this? How could Marco throw away the years we had spent together, as if they were nothing more than trash? I stood there for a moment, numb. The world around me seemed to fade. My breathing quickened, and my thoughts scattered. I moved deeper into the office, hoping, praying it was some sort of mistake. But there it was again, a pile of old letters and mementos, all of them discarded on the floor like they were meaningless. My heart was pounding now, the humiliation sinking in. I couldn't move. The reality hit me harder than any slap in the face. Marco had let go of me. Completely. Conflict momentum, CM. High. The public humiliation reaches its peak when Sophia finds out that Marco has discarded their shared memories at work. This action sends a clear signal that Marco has fully moved on and no longer values her. Emotional impact, EM. Deep shame, disbelief. Sophia feels exposed, humiliated, and rejected, leading to an emotional breakdown. Her self-worth is questioned, but this marks the beginning of her transformation. I couldn't hold back anymore. I dropped to my knees, my hands trembling as I held the photo frame. How had I missed it? How had I let myself ignore all the signs? The late nights, the secrecy, the whispers of Isabel? It was all leading to this moment. Marco had moved on, and I was the fool who had been holding on to a love that no longer existed. The door behind me creaked open, and I froze. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Isabel. I could feel her presence in the air, as suffocating as the silence that now hung between us. "Well, well," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Looks like you finally figured it out." Her words cut through me like a knife. The smugness in her voice only made the sting of betrayal sharper. She stood in the doorway, her posture relaxed, almost like she was enjoying my pain. "You know, it's really not that hard to understand," Isabel continued, stepping into the room. "He's done with you, Sophia. You were always just a stepping stone." I didn't say anything. I didn't have the strength to, but every word she spoke added to the anger that was bubbling up inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to lash out. But I stayed silent, my fists clenched tightly, trying to hold back the flood of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. Isabel's presence here was like salt on an open wound. She had always been there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for her chance to rub salt in my wounds. And now she was doing just that. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium Isabel's smugness adds another layer to the humiliation, intensifying the emotional impact on Sophia. Isabel is fully aware of the power she holds over Sophia, further straining the relationship. Emotional impact, EM. Anger, humiliation. The situation heightens Sophia's anger toward Isabel, but also reinforces the growing resentment toward Marco's betrayal. This strengthens Sophia's resolve to break free. I stood up slowly, my legs weak, my breath shallow. Isabel was still watching me, her eyes filled with triumph. She wasn't even pretending to care anymore. The games were over. She stepped closer, her voice a mockery of sympathy. "Don't take it so personally, Sophia. It's not like you were ever really Enough for him. The weight of her words crashed over me like a tidal wave, and for a moment I felt small, unimportant, worthless. But then, something inside me snapped. I had spent years chasing a man who didn't love me. I had given everything to a relationship that was built on lies, but no more. I wouldn't let them destroy me, not now, not ever again. Conflict momentum, CM, high. Sophia decides she can no longer stay in this toxic environment. Her resolve begins to harden. Emotional impact, EM. Empowerment, a sense of clarity. Although she is hurt, Sophia begins to take the first steps toward healing, realizing she must leave to preserve her dignity. I didn't look back as I walked out of the office, the sound of my heels clicking sharply against the floor. I didn't care if Marco was behind me, if Isabel was smirking in the background. This was it. I was done. But as I reached the door, I heard Marco's voice call my name. Sophia, wait! I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I had made my decision. Conflict momentum, CM. High, a powerful emotional release. This moment leaves the audience on edge, wondering if Sophia will finally go through with her decision to leave. Emotional impact, EM. Determination, courage, mixed with lingering pain. I sat there in my office, the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead filling the silence. It was a noise that once felt like a comforting presence, but now it only reminded me of everything I had lost. The numbers on the financial reports in front of me seemed to blur into one dark smear. Every figure, every percentage drop felt like a betrayal. I couldn't focus. My mind was elsewhere, lost in the mess I had created. The company I had built, my empire, was collapsing. Clients were leaving, contracts were slipping away, and investors, who once saw me as a visionary, were pulling out in droves. It was Isabel. I knew it. Her incompetence was the reason behind the downturn. Yet here I was, too blind to see it before everything began to unravel. I gripped the edge of my desk, the pressure of the situation bearing down on me. I could feel my breath growing shallow, the walls of the office closing in. It was all slipping away. Fast, too fast. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium Marco's business is in freefall, losing clients, contracts, and stock value, which is directly attributed to Isabel's incompetence. Emotional impact, EM. Regret, frustration. Marco faces the reality that his empire is crumbling due to his poor choices, particularly involving Isabel. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. My thoughts scattered as I tried to piece together the chain of events that led to this moment. I had been so focused on Isabel, believing she would be the answer to all my problems. But now I saw the truth. She wasn't a solution. She was a liability. The phone on my desk buzzed. A message from my assistant flashed across the screen. The board wants a meeting. They're worried about the losses. I didn't bother responding. What could I say? I didn't know what to tell them. My company, my vision, it was falling apart, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The weight of failure pressed down on me, suffocating me, leaving me paralyzed with the realization that everything I had worked for was slipping through my fingers. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. Gradual buildup as the tension between Marco and his financial downfall becomes palpable. Emotional impact, EM. Frustration, anxiety. Marco feels the pressure mounting. The once thriving business he built is crumbling before his eyes. Just as I was about to gather my thoughts, the door to my office opened. Isabel walked in, her expression cold and disinterested, as if she were some distant employee, not the woman I had trusted with everything. I didn't have to ask. I already knew. She was going to say it, the words I had been dreading. "I'm leaving," Isabel said flatly, her voice devoid of emotion. She didn't look at me as she spoke, her eyes fixed on the floor. "I can't be here while this mess is happening." Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. Isabel's departure increases Marco's sense of betrayal. The emotional toll of losing her deepens his isolation. Emotional impact, EM. Anger, sorrow. Marco grapples with the reality that he has lost both his partner in business and his emotional connection. He feels abandoned by the one person he trusted the most. Her words cut through me like a knife. I wanted to scream, to beg her to stay, but I couldn't. I knew she was right. She wasn't here for me anymore. She was here for the power, the influence, the money. And when that power crumbled, so did she. "Isabel," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You're just going to walk away?" She turned toward me then, her expression one of contempt. "What do you expect, Marco? You can't even keep the business afloat. I'm not sticking around to watch it all burn to the ground." She said it like it was my fault. And maybe it was. I had let her manipulate me into this position. I had let her ruin everything I worked for. But she was right about one thing. She was leaving. I didn't know how to feel about it. Betrayed? Yes. Angry? Yes. But deep down I knew this was inevitable. Isabel had always been a part of my downfall, and now she was the first to bail when things got tough. I felt alone, completely alone. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium, Isabel abandons Marco, seeing that he can no longer provide her with any benefits. This marks the beginning of his personal and professional isolation. Emotional impact, EM. Betrayal, loneliness. Marco realizes that Isabel, whom he trusted, is the first to leave him when the going gets tough. He feels utterly betrayed. I stared at her as she gathered her things. She didn't look back at me. Didn't care to see how much I was breaking inside. She was already gone in her mind, even if she hadn't walked out of the door yet. When she was gone, I was left with the cold emptiness of the office. The silence was suffocating. I couldn't think straight. I leaned back in my chair, letting my head fall back against the leather. How had I let everything get so far out of control? I thought about Sophia. I thought about the family I had destroyed for a woman who was never really there for me. I thought about all the moments I had chosen Isabel over Sophia, and how now I was paying for those choices. Conflict momentum, CM. High? Marco begins to fully process the consequences of his actions, realizing that his life has spiraled out of control. Emotional impact, EM. Regret, sorrow. Marco feels the weight of his choices, now seeing that his business and personal life are both in ruins. I didn't hear the phone ring at first, but then the shrill sound cut through the air. I reached for it, my hands shaking. "Marco," the voice on the other end of the line said. "We've lost the contracts. Every major one. Investors are pulling out. You're out of options." The words didn't register immediately. I heard them, but it felt like they were coming from a distant place. It was as if someone else's life was being destroyed, not mine. I hung up the phone slowly, staring at the empty space in front of me. I had nothing left. My business was gone. Isabel was gone. And soon, even the last of my pride would be gone. Conflict momentum, CM. High, building to the peak of Marco's emotional collapse. Emotional impact, EM. Desperation, hopelessness. Marco is left in a state of disbelief and panic. The phone rang, the sound slicing through the stillness of my apartment. I knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Marco. My heart fluttered involuntarily, despite my best efforts to remain calm. It had been a few weeks since I'd left him, but the rawness of it all still lingered. I took a deep breath and answered, pressing the phone to my ear. "Sophia." His voice cracked, hoarse with regret. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've lost everything. Please come back." The words tumbled out of him in a desperate rush, as if he was afraid I might hang up before he could get them all out. And maybe I would have, had I been a different person, someone who still believed in us. But I wasn't that person anymore. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of his apology pressing down on me, and for a moment, I let myself listen. I let myself remember the years we had shared, the good ones, the ones where he made me feel like I mattered. But then, the memories of his betrayal, of the countless lies and heartaches, shattered those fleeting thoughts. "I don't think you understand," Marco continued. "I need you. I don't know how to fix this without you." His words were laced with desperation, but I wasn't moved. The man I had once loved had crushed me beyond repair. The emotional wreckage was still too fresh, too raw for me to even entertain the idea of going back to him. Conflict momentum, CM. Hi, Marco calls Sophia, desperately apologizing and pleading for her to come back. He realizes that he has lost everything and needs her back to rebuild. Emotional impact, EM, regret, desperation. Marco's heartfelt apology contrasts sharply with the betrayal he caused. Sophia is confronted with the painful reality of his loss, but her emotions are mixed as she's asked to reconsider everything. "Marco," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil I felt inside. "You don't get it. You don't get to ask me back after everything you've done." He fell silent for a moment, as if the words I had just spoken had knocked the wind out of him. Maybe they did, but that was nothing compared to what I had gone through. "I've hurt you more than I can ever fix," Marco finally said, his voice lower now. "I know that, but you were everything to me. I can't lose you, not like this." I stood up, my hand gripping the edge of the table as the flood of emotions started to rise in me. I couldn't cry. Not now, not for him. But the pain, the weight of the years spent with him, still had a hold on me. "You already have, Marco," I whispered, the words like acid in my throat. "You lost me the moment you chose her over me. You lost me the moment you made me feel like I wasn't worth your love." Conflict momentum, CM, high. Sophia's decision becomes the key turning point in the narrative. Her refusal is firm, and the emotional battle has come to a close. Emotional impact, EM. Empowerment, liberation. Sophia stands her ground, feeling the immense weight of freedom. She is emotionally stronger, but acknowledges the emotional scars. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and for a second I almost felt sorry for him. But no, I couldn't. I wouldn't, not after everything. "Goodbye, Marco," I said, ending the call without another word. The phone slipped from my hand, and I sank down onto the couch. My heart was still racing, my body tense from the emotions I had just unleashed. But there was also something else. Something I hadn't felt in so long. Relief. I had done it. I had finally cut the cord. And in that moment, I knew I was free. I looked out the window, watching the city lights blink in the distance. It was a quiet reminder of how much had changed in the past few months. The life I had once thought I wanted, one with Marco, one with the family we had built, was gone. And now, I had to build something new, something for myself. Conflict momentum, CM, medium. The conflict reaches its highest point, but now Sophia's internal reflection sets the stage for her next steps. Emotional impact, EM, relief, sadness. While Sophia is confident in her decision, she feels the emotional weight of what she's left behind, including the family she once dreamed of. I glanced at my phone again. Marco's name flashed across the screen, a reminder that he wasn't done yet, that he was still trying to get back into my life. But I had made my choice. I reached for the phone, my finger hovering over the screen. I knew what I had to do. With a swift motion, I deleted his number. I didn't need to see it anymore. I didn't need to hear from him anymore. This was the final cut, the final line in the sand. As I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, I felt it. A calm, a peace, something I hadn't felt in years. I was finally in control of my life again, and no one, especially not Marco, would take that from me. Conflict momentum, CM, high, a pivotal emotional release. This marks the moment of Sophia's full emotional emancipation. Emotional impact, EM. Finality, self-assurance. Sophia is ready to move forward, no longer shackled by Marco's presence. I stood up from the couch, my decision made. There was no going back. I walked to the window and looked out at the city once more. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. It was mine now, and I was going to take it. New York was a city of possibility, a city of change. It stood before me, vast and untamed, as I took my first steps into this new chapter of my life. I had nothing but my small apartment, a handful of savings, and a fierce resolve to rebuild from the ground up. The weight of my past, the shattered marriage, the betrayal, the pain, still lingered, but I was determined not to let it define me. The morning after I arrived, I woke up early, the sun barely peeking over the skyline. I stared at the city, feeling the pulse of it, the hum of a life being lived. It was a different rhythm from the one I had left behind in the familiar comforts of my old life. Here, in this city, I could be anyone. I could make something of myself. I'd always believed in second chances. This was mine. I had landed a small job working for a startup, doing something I had always been passionate about. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And that was all I needed. I set up my workspace, unpacked my boxes, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of excitement. Conflict momentum, CM, medium. Sophia is determined to rebuild her life from scratch, but the challenges are great, both internally and externally. Emotional impact, EM, empowerment, determination. Sophia is driven by a sense of purpose and resilience. She embraces her new life, despite the obstacles she faces. But as the days passed, that initial spark of excitement was quickly tested. It wasn't long before I ran into the first signs of resistance. My former colleagues from the company I used to work for, people I once considered friends, began to spread rumors. At first, it was subtle, a passing comment here and there. But it didn't take long before it became more deliberate. They whispered about how I would never make it without Marco's support, how my success had been a fluke. I wasn't sure whether they truly believed it or if they simply wanted to undermine me. Either way, their words stung. It was as if my past was refusing to stay behind, clawing its way into my new life. Conflict momentum, CM, medium. As Sophia begins to thrive in her new business venture, the betrayal of her former colleagues starts to surface. They try to undermine her progress by spreading rumors and doubting her capabilities. Emotional impact, EM. Betrayal, frustration. Sophia feels betrayed by the people she once trusted, but this motivates her to prove them wrong. The first time I heard the rumors, I laughed it off. They don't know me, I muttered under my breath as I walked into my new office, taking a deep breath and trying to focus on the task at hand. But that evening, sitting alone in my apartment, the weight of the betrayal settled in. These were people I had worked with for years, people I had trusted, and they were trying to tear me down. I had worked for Marco's company for a long time. I had given my heart, my soul, my very essence to it. And now, they were all too happy to dismiss me, as if I was nothing more than a footnote in their success story. But the more I thought about it, the more it pushed me to prove them wrong. I wasn't just going to let them define my future. I wasn't going to let their words dictate who I was or what I could accomplish. I had come this far, and I wasn't about to stop now. Conflict momentum, CM, medium. The tension increases as Sophia must now deal with the sabotage from her past connections, adding to her emotional burdens. Emotional impact, EM, betrayal, frustration. Sophia is crushed by the betrayal of those she once considered friends, but she doesn't let it stop her. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work. I became laser-focused, determined to make my business venture succeed. I spent late nights at my desk, crafting pitches, building connections, doing everything I could to get my name out there. The harder I worked, the more I could feel the weight of their doubt pushing me forward. I couldn't let them win. I had to show them all, that I was capable of so much more than they'd ever believed. Then came the breakthrough. A client I had been working on for months finally agreed to sign with me. It wasn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but it was a start, and it felt like victory. I picked up the phone to call my mother, to tell her the good news. I needed to share this moment, to hear someone tell me how proud they were of me. But before I could dial, I received a call from one of my former colleagues. I hesitated for a moment before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Sophia," the voice on the other end said, sounding surprisingly sincere. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. We were wrong about you. I shouldn't have listened to the others. You've always been good at what you do. I've been thinking about everything and I want to make it right." The words caught me off guard. I hadn't expected an apology, certainly not from this person. But as much as I wanted to believe it, something inside me held back. I couldn't forget how they had treated me. I couldn't forget the betrayal. Conflict momentum, CM, high, suspense. The tension builds as Sophia is forced to confront her feelings and decide whether she will let go of the past or allow the same people who hurt her back in. Emotional impact, EM, conflict, reflection. Sophia struggles with her emotions as she ponders whether to accept their apology, knowing that it may open old wounds. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "But thank you for saying it. I'm not sure I can let you back into my life, though. Not after everything that happened. I hung up the phone, my mind spinning with uncertainty. I was proud of how far I had come, but there was still so much to figure out. Would I forgive them? Would I allow them back into my life? I wasn't sure, but for now I had my business. I had myself. And I would keep moving forward no matter what. New York was a city of possibility, a city of change. It stood before me, vast and untamed, as I took my first steps into this new chapter of my life. I had nothing but my small apartment, a handful of savings, and a fierce resolve to rebuild from the ground up. The weight of my past, the shattered marriage, the betrayal, the pain, still lingered, but I was determined not to let it define me. The morning after I arrived, I woke up early, the sun barely peeking over the skyline. I stared at the city, feeling the pulse of it, the hum of a life being lived. It was a different rhythm from the one I had left behind in the familiar comforts of my old life. Here, in this city, I could be anyone. I could make something of myself. I'd always believed in second chances. This was mine. I had landed a small job working for a startup, doing something I had always been passionate about. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And that was all I needed. I set up my workspace, unpacked my boxes, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of excitement. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. Sophia is determined to rebuild her life from scratch, but the challenges are great, both internally and externally. Emotional impact, EM. Empowerment, determination. Sophia is driven by a sense of purpose and resilience. She embraces her new life, despite the obstacles she faces. But as the days passed, that initial spark of excitement was quickly tested. It wasn't long before I ran into the first signs of resistance. My former colleagues from the company I used to work for, people I once considered friends, began to spread rumors. At first it was subtle, a passing comment here and there. But it didn't take long before it became more deliberate. They whispered about how I would never make it without Marco's support, how my success had been a fluke. I wasn't sure whether they truly believed it or if they simply wanted to undermine me. Either way, their words stung. It was as if my past was refusing to stay behind, clawing its way into my new life. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. As Sophia begins to thrive in her new business venture, the betrayal of her former colleagues starts to surface. They try to undermine her progress by spreading rumors and doubting her capabilities. Emotional impact, EM. Betrayal, frustration. Sophia feels betrayed by the people she once trusted, but this motivates her to prove them wrong. The first time I heard the rumors, I laughed it off. They don't know me, I muttered under my breath as I walked into my new office, taking a deep breath and trying to focus on the task at hand. But that evening, sitting alone in my apartment, the weight of the betrayal settled in. These were people I had worked with for years, people I had trusted, and they were trying to tear me down. I had worked for Marco's company for a long time. I had given my heart, my soul, my very essence to it. And now, they were all too happy to dismiss me as if I was nothing more than a footnote in their success story. But the more I thought about it, the more it pushed me to prove them wrong. I wasn't just going to let them define my future. I wasn't going to let their words dictate who I was or what I could accomplish. I had come this far, and I wasn't about to stop now. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. The tension increases as Sophia must now deal with the sabotage from her past connections, adding to her emotional burdens. Emotional impact, EM. Betrayal, frustration. Sophia is crushed by the betrayal of those she once considered friends, but she doesn't let it stop her. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my work. I became laser-focused, determined to make my business venture succeed. I spent late nights at my desk, crafting pitches, building connections, doing everything I could to get my name out there. The harder I worked, the more I could feel the weight of their doubt pushing me forward. I couldn't let them win. I had to show them all, that I was capable of so much more than they'd ever believed. Then came the breakthrough. A client I had been working on for months finally agreed to sign with me. It wasn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but it was a start. And it felt like victory. I picked up the phone to call my mother, to tell her the good news. I needed to share this moment, to hear someone tell me how proud they were of me. But before I could dial, I received a call from one of my former colleagues. I hesitated for a moment before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Sophia," the voice on the other end said, sounding surprisingly sincere. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. We were wrong about you. I shouldn't have listened to the others. You've always been good at what you do. I've been thinking about everything, and I want to make it right." The words caught me off guard. I hadn't expected an apology, certainly not from this person. But as much as I wanted to believe it, something inside me held back. I couldn't forget how they had treated me. I couldn't forget the betrayal. Conflict momentum, CM. High suspense. The tension builds as Sophia is forced to confront her feelings and decide whether she will let go of the past or allow the same people who hurt her back in. Emotional impact, EM. Conflict, reflection. Sophia struggles with her emotions as she ponders whether to accept their apology, knowing that it may open old wounds. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "But thank you for saying it. I'm not sure I can let you back into my life, though. Not after everything that happened." I hung up the phone, my mind spinning with uncertainty. I was proud of how far I had come, but there was still so much to figure out. Would I forgive them? Would I allow them back into my life? I wasn't sure, but for now, I had my business. I had myself, and I would keep moving forward no matter what. Marco's office felt empty without Sophia. The silence in the room was oppressive, like a weight I could never shake off. Every corner of this place once held memories of her. Her laugh, her presence, her advice when I needed it most. Now it was all gone. I hadn't realized how much of my life had revolved around her until she was no longer here. She was my anchor. Now I was adrift. I sat at my desk, surrounded by piles of reports and contracts that seemed impossible to navigate without her. The phone in my hand felt like an alien object. I couldn't focus. My mind kept drifting back to the last time I saw her, that heartbreaking moment when she told me she couldn't do it anymore. She was done. She had finally had enough. And I, the man who once thought he had everything, was left with nothing. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. Marco is alone and starting to face the emotional consequences of his actions. The isolation he feels begins to affect his work and his mental state. Emotional impact, EM. Regret, loneliness. Marco feels deep regret for losing Sophia, and the emotional pain begins to take a toll on him. He is unable to fill the void left by her. As the days dragged on, I found myself locked in my office for hours, unable to focus on anything but the relentless reminder that Sophia was gone. The company, once my pride and joy, was beginning to slip from my grasp. My employees no longer respected me, my clients had started to pull back, and the stock prices, always so stable under Sophia's steady hand, were falling fast. I had built this empire with her by my side, but now that she was gone, I couldn't hold it together. The pressure was suffocating and I didn't know how to fix it. Conflict momentum, CM. Hi, Marco's work suffers without Sophia's support. He is unable to perform at his best, and the consequences are evident in both his personal and professional life. Emotional impact, EM. Frustration, helplessness. Marco realizes that he took Sophia for granted, and now he must face the consequences of his actions. The realization is crushing. The loneliness in my office was suffocating. I thought I had everything: money, power, success. But without Sophia, what was it worth? My office felt colder, the walls closing in on me. I missed the way she would pop her head in with a quick, "Have you eaten today?" The small things, the way she made me feel like I wasn't alone in this world, were gone. I thought about the times she'd stayed up late, helping me with presentations, the late-night calls where she comforted me after a bad meeting. She was always there for me, but I hadn't been there for her when she needed me most. Now I was paying the price. I could feel it, deep in my bones. Conflict momentum, CM. Medium. Marco's internal conflict deepens as he reflects on what he lost. He is left to deal with the emotional fallout. Emotional impact, EM. Regret, sadness. Marco feels the weight of his decisions and the emptiness of his life without Sophia. The following week, things went from bad to worse. I couldn't make a decision to save my life. I stared at contracts and emails, unable to focus. The numbers, once so clear and easy to navigate, now seemed like a foreign language. My team noticed it. They saw the cracks in the foundation. I could see it in their eyes. They didn't respect me anymore. Without Sophia's quiet guidance, I had lost control. I had lost my edge. I should have seen it coming. Sophia had always been my balance, the rational voice in my head. Without her, everything was unraveling, and I was powerless to stop it. Conflict momentum, CM. Hi, Marco's career is starting to fall apart as his focus and confidence diminish. The pressure mounts. Emotional impact, EM. Frustration, helplessness. Marco is deeply frustrated by his inability to manage the company without Sophia. He realizes that she was the backbone of his success. Late one night, I found myself alone in my office, staring out the window. The city lights shimmered in the distance, a beautiful but distant reminder of everything I had once taken for granted. My phone buzzed on my desk. For a moment, I ignored it, but then I saw the name on the screen. It was her, Sophia. I took a deep breath and answered the call. Hello? I said, my voice trembling despite myself. Sophia, I began, but she cut me off. I'm fine, Marco, she said, her voice calm, too calm. I've moved on. The words hit me like a physical blow. My heart sank into my stomach. This was it. She was really gone. You don't need to worry about me anymore, she continued. I'm doing well. I'm happy. I couldn't speak. The silence stretched between us, suffocating. I just wanted you to know, she added softly. I'm done. For good. The call ended before I could find the words to stop her, before I could beg her to come back. Conflict momentum, CM. High suspense. The call from Sophia marks a dramatic shift in Marco's life. This moment cements the reality that Sophia is gone, and he must face the consequences alone. Emotional impact, EM. Heartache, closure. Marco is left to wrestle with his emotions, fully realizing that he cannot change the past. The pain of losing Sophia becomes even more unbearable. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. The city lights outside felt like a cruel reminder of everything I had lost. I had thought that maybe, just maybe, I could fix it. But I had lost my chance. Sophia had moved on, and I was left to face the consequences of my own mistakes. Alone. I never thought I would feel this way again, but here I am, standing in front of someone who looks at me like I'm something worth loving. His smile is gentle, but there's a fire behind his eyes, a warmth that feels like a rare thing to me now. His name is Ethan, and he's nothing like Marco. He's kind, attentive, and best of all, he doesn't try to fix me. He simply accepts me for who I am now, not who I was or who I might have been if things had gone differently. This is the first time I'm allowing myself to feel something more than just the lingering pain of my past. The chemistry between us is undeniable, almost magnetic. Ethan's laugh, so carefree, somehow starts to melt away the ice I'd built around my heart. When he looks at me, there's no judgment, no expectation. He doesn't demand anything from me, and for the first time in years, I feel light. I thought I had forgotten what it was like to be seen for the person I truly am. The first few dates were hesitant, small gestures, soft conversations, but now it's becoming real. Each time we meet, the layers of my past peel away, and I begin to feel something that's been missing for far too long. He doesn't mind when I get lost in my thoughts. He just waits, letting me find my words at my own pace. It's healing, slow but steady. I don't want to compare him to Marco. I can't, not anymore. But with Ethan, I feel safe, and that's the most I could ask for at this point. After everything, I'm finally starting to believe that I might be worthy of love again. As our relationship grows, I open up more about my past, the pain, the betrayal, the years of quiet suffering. Ethan listens, truly listens, without trying to interrupt or rush me. It's the first time I felt heard in a long time, and it's different from what I shared with Marco. With Marco, my words were often met with dismissal or manipulation, but with Ethan, it's nothing like that. He doesn't rush to offer solutions. He just lets me speak, letting me heal in my own time. He makes me feel valued in a way I didn't even realize I needed. But as I let go of the past, I begin to see the potential of a future with him. And for the first time in years, I feel excited about tomorrow. I think I could really love him, but that thought also scares me. How could I let myself fall in love again? What if I'm just making the same mistake, believing in something that can't last? Then, in a quiet moment, as we sit on the couch after a simple dinner, Ethan takes my hand. "I think we have something really special," he says, his voice soft but certain. "I want to see where this goes. I want you, Sophia." The words hit me like a ton of bricks, and for a moment I feel frozen. How could he want me, after everything I've been through? After the years of being unnoticed, unloved? He's offering me something real, and for the first time, I think I might deserve it. But then, just as I'm starting to believe it, my phone buzzes on the table. The name on the screen takes my breath away. Marco. My heart clenches. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Is he really reaching out again? The call feels like a cruel reminder that no matter how far I've come, I will never be fully free of my past. I hesitate before answering, my mind torn between the life I've built with Ethan and the unresolved feelings I still carry for Marco. I could ignore it, but something keeps me tethered. I take a deep breath and answer, my voice shaky. "Hello?" Marco's voice is distant, almost apologetic. "Sophia, I know I've hurt you, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I miss you." I feel the weight of his words, the years of history we share, pressing down on me. But then I look over at Ethan, who is watching me closely. His presence is grounding, and I realize that I've moved on. I'm no longer the woman I was when Marco walked out on me. "Marco," I say softly, my voice clear and steady. "I've moved on. I've found a new life. I'm happy now, and I don't think we can go back." The call ends before he can say anything else, and I sit there for a moment, staring at my phone. For the first time in a long time, I feel a sense of peace. It's done. I'm done with the past. Ethan reaches over and takes my hand. His touch is warm, comforting. "I'm here for you," he says, his words simple but sincere. And for the first time, I truly believe him. I sit in the quiet of my new home, the space around me echoing with the stillness that now fills my life. It's been months since I left everything behind, since I took that final step away from Marco and the life I once knew. I've rebuilt from the ground up, and I have finally begun to understand the weight of what freedom truly means. There's no one to answer to, no one to manipulate me, no one to hold me back. It's all on my terms now. I look around the room, taking in the simple furniture, the fresh walls, the bright windows that now reflect my newfound independence. I've come a long way from the woman who once felt trapped, suffocated by a life she didn't choose. I am no longer that person. I've shed the skin of the past, the trauma, the fear, and for the first time, I can breathe deeply without hesitation. For so long, I thought I was weak for wanting a family, for wanting love. I believed that I was somehow broken, unworthy of a peaceful existence. But now, I realize that my strength lies in my ability to let go. I am free, completely free, and with that freedom, I feel a deep, healing sense of liberation. But it's not just about me anymore. The woman I've become, empowered, independent, resilient, has to help others. The pain I endured, the suffering I went through, it can't just disappear without meaning. So I decided to use my experience to give back, to create something that could help other women trapped in the same cycle of abuse, manipulation, and self-doubt that I was once in. I started a foundation, an organization dedicated to helping women break free, to rediscover their worth, and to reclaim their lives. It feels right, like a natural next step. My pain has turned into purpose. I channel everything I've learned into something good, something that can help others find the freedom I now hold. It's not easy. There are days when I question if I can make a real difference. But when I hear the stories of women whose lives have been transformed by the foundation, when I see them taking the first steps toward a future they thought was out of reach, I know I've made the right choice. There's a deep fulfillment in this work, a sense of meaning that I've never known before. As much as I've been healing, helping these women heal has been just as essential. Each story shared, each breakthrough achieved, it fills me with a sense of purpose. I've taken my scars and turned them into something that can help others. I sit down at my desk one evening, my heart full as I reflect on how far I've come. The woman who was once desperate for approval, terrified of being alone, is now someone who leads, someone who inspires. I feel at peace with who I am. The ghosts of my past no longer haunt me. I've faced them, battled them, and emerged stronger. But as I sit in that peace, I get a call that I never expected. It's Marco. I let the phone ring for a moment before answering. There's a hesitation in my chest, a flicker of something I can't quite place. I hear his voice, soft, regretful, and the flood of memories comes rushing back. "Sophia," he says, his voice cracked with emotion. "I've been thinking about everything, all the mistakes I made. I've changed. I don't know if it's too late, but I need to say I'm sorry. Please just give me a chance to make things right." I feel a coldness settle over me as his words hang in the air. The past, the person who once owned my every thought, is back in my life, trying to regain the control he had once. The very idea that he wants to return after everything, after the destruction, feels surreal. Part of me wants to cry, to shout, to let him know how deeply he hurt me. But I don't. I just listen. I've come too far to let this man slip back into my world. "I'm sorry, Marco," I say, my voice steady but firm. "It's too late. I've moved on. I'm happy now. I don't think you can fix what's broken. I found my peace and I can't go back to what we had." His silence on the other end speaks volumes. I don't need to hear anything more. My decision is made. I'm no longer tethered to him, no longer afraid of his manipulation. I've let go of that part of my life for good. But even as I end the call, I feel a flicker of something, uncertainty, maybe even regret on my part. It's natural, isn't it? To wonder if I did the right thing, to question if he's changed for real. But deep down, I know that this is the right choice. I've built my life, piece by piece, and I can't let anyone, not even him, destroy that. I take a deep breath, feeling the finality of it. For the first time in a long time, I know without a doubt that I am free. I'm no longer bound by anyone's expectations, no longer holding on to the past. I am my own person, and the world ahead of me is filled with endless possibilities, and I will move forward one step at a time, knowing that the future is mine to create. As I reflect on everything that has led me to this moment, I realize that the most important lesson I've learned is the power of reclaiming your life. No one can define your worth but you. Life will throw challenges at you, some of which feel impossible to overcome. But I stand here today, not as the woman I once was, but as the woman who learned to stand on her own 2 feet, to let go of the past, and to embrace a future filled with possibility. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's that you have the strength within you to overcome any obstacle, no matter how impossible it may seem. Don't let your past define your future. Don't let the voices of those who don't believe in you drown out your own inner voice, telling you that you are worthy of more. In life, we all face moments where we feel lost, but it's in those moments that we can rediscover who we truly are. Every setback, every tear, every heartbreak can become the fuel for your greatest transformation. So to anyone who's been through a tough time, remember this: you are stronger than you think. You are capable of moving forward, of finding love again, of building the life you deserve. And before I go, I want to hear from you. Has there been a moment in your life where you overcame something that seemed insurmountable? Share your story with me in the comments below. I would love to hear how you've reclaimed your own power. If you found this video inspiring or it touched your heart, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. If you didn't like the video, feel free to let me know why, and tell me where you're watching from. Your feedback means the world to me. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay strong, stay empowered.